This is the Hollyland Cosmo C2, their new wireless system which is built for multi-camera productions, with an elegant dual receiver to simplify monitoring multiple cameras at once, and it scales really well from smaller productions to larger multi-camera broadcast work with impressive range, latency and image quality. This could just be one of the best wireless systems that Hollyland have made yet. This is all possible because of Hollyland's new HEVO 2.0 chip, which they claim gives 18% faster latency and 186% more range than their previous chip. The headline feature though is without a doubt the dual receiver. The whole system is very well spec'd and competitive with the rest of the market, but this is the standout feature and the reason you'd be looking for the Cosmo C2 for your work over the rest of the competition out there. You have two transmitters, one on each camera, and both are connected to this single receiver. Then you get SDI HDMI out from one side for one camera and the other for the second camera. This means you can pair this with a production monitor like this Switch FM21 HDR, which is perfect for this because it can display two signals side by side. Or perhaps a video switcher like the Blackmagic A10 for live production work. Or of course just two monitors side by side to create a simple video village, or use smaller 5 or 7 inch monitors in a dual monitor cage for a handheld rig. Combining those two receivers into one, that makes all of those setups just so much cleaner and easier. One feature that this doesn't have though that I would love to have seen would be for this receiver to actually create that side-by-side picture-in-picture effect itself and feed that out over one port. Because that way you could have used any monitor out there on the market to monitor two cameras side by side. That would have been lovely, but at the moment this is just one camera on one side with one port and the other camera on the outside with the other port. And this feature of having two receivers into one is surprisingly rare. The Cosmo C2 is certainly not the first. Hollyland themselves have their own Syscom 421S, for example, which can actually do 4 transmitters into one receiver. But that does come at a price, and the receiver is huge, so much larger. With the Cosmo C2, yes, the receiver is larger than the transmitters, but it's still a relatively normal size, and the price is much more in line with other wireless systems. So that makes it a much more practical overall tool, which is going to be useful for all wireless situations, rather than only when you need it for that multi-camera work. So let's take a look at the physical design, starting with the transmitters. You get both HDMI and SDI inputs, and there's an SDI loop out as well, which is nice to see. There's removable antenna on the top, which is important for reliability and range. For power, we get an MPF battery slot, which is pretty standard, and a locking DC input. I'm so glad Hollyland use locking DC on their products. Some of their competition don't, and it is so important on a product like this in my opinion, because it's used on camera. If you're using a DTAP to DC cable on your rig, the last thing you want is to be accidentally pulling your power cable out by accident. I also like that it's a physical locking power switch. I much prefer this physical switch to holding down small little buttons. For mounting, we get a 1/4 inch screw thread on the bottom, which has locator pin slots on either side. And then there's their expansion accessory, which screws onto the side to give you another 1/4 inch screw thread there if you'd prefer it in that location. They also have cold shoe adapters in the box. The UI is controlled through this little screen on the side and the joystick below it. It's simple and familiar if you're used to other Hollyland products. The dual receiver is a bit bigger, as you'd expect. Instead of MPF, this one uses V-mount batteries because of course it's drawing a bit more power because it's a dual receiver. You also get the locking DC port, so you can power this from the same battery as your monitor with a DTAP cable. The important bit though is the ports. You get an SDI and an HDMI on the right hand side and an SDI and HDMI on the left hand side. These are labelled A or B and correspond to these LED indicators on the top labelled A and B. One side is for one paired transmitter, the other side is for the other one. Nice and simple. You also get a USB-C port, which can be connected to a computer for UVC webcam output to get the signal into Teams or Zoom, and a network port as well. And this is for the SDI HX3 functionality, which we're going to talk about that more in a minute. Hollyland claim a latency of 33 milliseconds, which is less than the 50 milliseconds of latency that they claim on their Pyro system, or the 70 milliseconds which they claim on the Mars 400S Pro 2. This is a big improvement. It's not quite the 25 milliseconds that Axion claim on their Cineview Master 4K, but it's not far off. And the image quality seems to be fantastic. Here are some clips of the output from the receiver, which we recorded onto the Atomos Shogun. So we do these quite harsh and fast exposure changes, focus pulls, reframing and zooming in and out for these tests, not because they're nice to look at, but because when you tend to see compression problems showing up is in these big movements like this. Quite often the entire screen can just turn into this compression mush. But here, it's very clean. There's minimal compression blocking or banding, and it's really clean signal. It's great to see. For range, they claim 3,000 feet or 1,000 meters with line of sight. Again, a huge increase over the 400 meter range on the Pyro and 130 meters on the Mars 400S Pro 2. Unlike those products though, you don't get any app functionality here. This is purely point-to-point between transmitter and receiver. You can't connect a tablet or a phone or anything like that to monitor that way. This is the trade-off for this more powerful wireless chip. So if the app functionality is important to you, you're probably going to be better off with the Pyro system. If you work in an NDI network environment, you're going to be pleased to see NDI HX3 support. This means you can use the receiver as kind of like a wireless base station connected to your network and bring in two wireless roaming cameras which have the transmitters on them. Now this should work straight away when you're both on the same network, as long as both devices are on the same gateway port. There's also support for fractional frame rates now, which is handy. This means that if you want to, you can do 29.97 or 23.976 frames a second. That's not used too much over here in the UK, but in America and some other parts of the world, that is very useful. So, that's the Hollyland Cosmo C2, which is not just the easiest way to monitor two cameras at once, but also one of the best wireless systems that Hollyland have made to date. Let us know what you think of it down in the comments. If you want to buy one for yourself, head over to ProAV, of course, and make sure you subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.